My name is Sarafi, and I'm happy to meet you all. And today we're going to be talking about Mayakashi. Now, Mayakashi is a deck that has been in the game for a long time, and the cards that were necessary to play it were not reprinted in this new box. So if you don't have the old Mayakashi cards, it's going to be pretty hard for you to play Mayakashi. But if you're like me and you enjoyed them previously, this is the update that you've been waiting for because these cards and this skill are fantastic. So let's go ahead and take a look at the options that you have playing this deck. And as you can see, we've gone for a completely pure version, which feels great. The skill is called the Stirring Mayakashi. If you have at least 12 Mayakashi cards in your deck at the start of the duel, add 3 types of Mayakashi monsters to your extra deck. You can only special summon Mayakashi monsters and zombie-type fire monsters during this duel, excluding special summons from your extra deck. You can also use the following effect once per duel. If you have a Mayakashi Synchro or Link monster on your field, pick up to 5 Mayakashi Synchro monsters of a different level from your extra deck and send them to the graveyard. Monsters sent to the graveyard can be special summoned. So the skill adds Gasha Dokuro, the Skeletal Mayakashi, Tengu, the Winged Mayakashi, and Oboro Guruma, the Wheeled Mayakashi, to your extra deck at the start of the duel. That's great. That means that we don't have to put those cards in our extra deck. So that's the level 11, the level 7, and the level 3. So the way that Mayakashi work is they scale down a lot. So you want to make sure that you have every level available to you, which is why we are put the level 9 and the level 5 in the deck ourselves. That way we cover everything. For the main deck, we have Hajun, the Winged Mayakashi. Now, this card is a 3 of, but I haven't gone through the box 3 times yet, so I'm happy with the card at 2. I haven't had any problems with it yet. Level 1, if this card is normal or special summon, you can special summon 1 Mayakashi monster from your deck. You can only use this effect once per turn. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except Mayakashi monsters. So this is great. We summon Hajun, we bring out our Daki, and then we immediately start Link climbing, and it's fantastic. Effect Veiler, we're playing this at 2. Gives us some interruption going first, or going second, and allows us to make sure that our opponent doesn't get too much of an advantage. Daki, the Graceful Mayakashi. This card was not reprinted, so from an old box, but it's a very good card. Level 2, Zombie Tuner. You can only control 1 Daki, the Graceful Mayakashi. When a Mayakashi monster is special summoned to your field from the extra deck, while this card is in the graveyard, you can special summon this card. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck during the turn you activate this effect except Mayakashi monsters. Not only is this not once per turn, it is not once per chain, which is absurd. So if you have 2 Dakis in your graveyard, you can activate both of their effects in response to every monster being summoned from the extra deck. Now, you can only control 1 Daki. So even if you activate both their effects, you will not get 2 monsters on your field. But it does mean that you play around DD Crow. Because if your opponent tries to DD Crow one of your Dakis, the other one is still on the stack. So the other one will just come back instead of that one. So as long as you have 2 Dakis in your graveyard, you are basically immune to DD Crow, at least in this respect. Your opponent will still be able to try and stop you from special summoning from the graveyard, but they won't be able to stop you from setting up your graveyard. This is a great card. Yuki Musume, the Ice Mayakashi. If you control a Mayakashi card other than Yuki Musume, while this card is in your hand or your graveyard, you can special summon this card, then send 1 zombie-type monster from your deck to your graveyard. You can only use this effect once per turn. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except Mayakashis. So, Yuki Musume allows you to special summon itself when you control a Mayakashi card. It doesn't have to be a monster. So if you have Mayakashi Winter, you can summon this card. And then you can just mill your Daki. It's a great option. This will be another way that you can very easily get your 2 monsters on the field to start your climbing. Yasha, the Skeletal Mayakashi. Level 5. You can discard 1 of their Mayakashi monsters to special summon this card from your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except Mayakashi monsters. Great. Another easy way to get monsters we need in our graveyard. Another easy way we can get 2 monsters on the field at the same time. We start our Link climbing that way. 1 for 1. This is our 3rd June. Discard a monster, special summon Hajun from your deck, and get started. Cosmic Cyclone. It's a good card to make sure that we don't run into any trouble while we are dealing with our opponent's board with our heavy monster board. Mayakashi Return. Take 1 Mayakashi card from your deck, except Mayakashi Return, and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. You can only activate 1 return per turn. Great. So, this is 3 more copies of Hajun, or 3 copies of Yuki Musume, or 3 more copies of Daki, whatever you want it to be. I'll usually use this to draw my 1 copy of Mayhem, because I like Mayhem. Mayakashi Winter. This is a continuous spell. Monsters your opponent controls lose 100 attack and defense for each Mayakashi monster in your graveyard with a different name. You can only use one of the following effects of Mayakashi Winter per turn, and only once that turn. Send this card and 1 Mayakashi monster you control to the graveyard to draw a card, or banish this card and 1 zombie type monster from your graveyard, then target 1 Mayakashi monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So these cards are pretty good. You can send this card directly to the graveyard from your deck with return if you want to use its grave effect, or you can just play it. And if you just play it, then your opponent's monster is going to lose about 800 attack and defense points during your opponent's turn after you've used the skill and milled everything. That's about what you can expect from DPE in Master Duel. An 800 attack point decrease with a bunch of heroes in your graveyard. So this is pretty solid for a debuff. Don't discount that debuff. It's actually pretty significant. But regardless, it's a good card. You don't really need more than one of it, so just enjoy it at 1. Mayakashi Metamorphosis. You can discard 1 card, then target 1 of your Mayakashi monsters that's banished or in your graveyard and special summon it. Your opponent cannot target it with card effects this turn. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck the turn you activate this card except Mayakashi monsters, and you can only activate 1 Mayakashi Metamorphosis per turn. So Mayhem lets you set Mayakashi cards from your deck, and this card is one of the good ones. So definitely keep it alive, keep it in mind. Mayakashi Mayhem. If a zombie synchro monster is special summoned except from the extra deck, even during the damage step, you can apply one of the following effects. You cannot apply the same effect of Mayakashi Mayhem for the rest of the turn. You can draw a card. You can set 1 Mayakashi spell or trap directly from your deck except Mayhem. You can send the 1 monster with the lowest attack your opponent controls to the graveyard, your choice of Tide, or you can inflict 400 damage to your opponent. So that's 3 very good effects, and then 1 nice little effect. That's very strong because Mayakashis, like I said, they like to special summon themselves from the graveyard in sequence. The fact that this effect triggers during the damage step, which means if your opponent destroys one of your monsters in battle and you summon another one, okay, well this effect still triggers even then. That's really, really good. So you can just kind of float over and over again and get all these extra advantages. Drawing an extra card, setting a trap, sending one of your opponent's monsters to the graveyard, and then burning them. Very, very strong. Okay, for the extra deck we have Yoko the Graceful Mayakashi. We send this card to the graveyard with the skill. If this card is special summoned from the graveyard, you can pop a monster your opponent controls. That's really good. It does not target either, which is also really good. Tsuchi Gumo the Poisonous Mayakashi. If this card is special summoned from the graveyard, both players mill 3, which is fine. The other synchro monsters we can revive. Gasha Dokuro. If this card is special summoned from the graveyard, you can activate this effect. This turn, this face-up card is unaffected by other cards' effects. That's insane. Tengu the Winged Mayakashi. You can destroy 1 spell or trap your opponent controls again without targeting. Really good. And Opero Guruma. This is unlikely to come up, but if it gets special summoned from the graveyard, you can activate this effect, and this turn your monsters cannot be destroyed by battle. Okay, so those are the monsters that you have for synchro material. You will usually just send them directly to the graveyard with the skill. However, you can climb into them with a level 1 and Daki, which is also not bad, because if you do that, then you will end the board with your 3,300 attack point monster on the field, and then you can just use the level 9 or the level 7, depending on what you need during your opponent's turn, which those are the better options anyway. For the other monsters, we have Yuki-Onna the Icicle Mayakashi, which is a Link 3. It requires 2 or more zombie-type monsters. You can only control 1 Yuki-Onna the Icicle Mayakashi. You can only use each effect of Yuki-Onna the Icicle Mayakashi once per turn. If this card is special summoned, you can target 1 effect monster your opponent controls and negate its effects permanently. As a quick effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Special summon 1 of your zombie-type synchro monsters that is banished or in your graveyard. Fantastic. So, you link this off, put it in your graveyard, and then you can just revive your Mayakashi monsters during your opponent's turn whenever you want, and trigger your Mayhem. It's just honestly that simple. Yuki-Onna the Ice Mayakashi, this is the link too. It requires 2 Mayakashi monsters. You can only control 1 Yuki-Onna the Ice Mayakashi. While this card points to a synchro monster, your opponent's monsters cannot target this card for attacks. If a synchro monster in your possession is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect while this card is on the field, you can target 1 face-up monster on the field. Its attack and defense become half its current attack and defense until the end of the turn. You can only use this effect once per turn. So, game plan is get 2 monsters out. Make Yuki-Onna. Make Icicle. Then link Icicle and Daki into Yuki-Onna. Then link Ice and Daki into Icicle. Then link Icicle and Daki into Ice, so that you have 2 of each of them in your graveyard. Then you activate your skill, you send all your synchro monsters to the graveyard, and you pass. And that lets you just pop all your opponent's cards. And let's take a look at it in action. Alright, we're going first. Activate 1 for 1, discard activate 1 for 1, discard Yasha to special summon Hajun, bring Daki out, link Daki into the Ice Mayakashi, then link Daki and Icicle into, or link Daki and Ice into Icicle. Daki comes back, link Icicle into Ice, Daki comes back, link Ice into Icicle, Daki comes back, link Icicle into Ice, Daki comes back, skill. Link Ice into Icicle. Daki comes back, set 1, skill, pass. Alright, our entire extra is in our graveyard. We activate Mayakashi Mayhem, we activate Yuki-Onna's effect. Cosmo Tin Can is going to banish itself to special summon the Dark Destroyer. Dark Destroyer will target our Mayakashi to destroy it, but we will activate this as a chain link too. It's unaffected by other card effects. And then Mayakashi Mayhem is a third. We'll send the Cosmo Dark Destroyer to the graveyard, and since it's sent to the graveyard, not destroyed, it can't activate its effect. And our opponent concedes. There you go. We have a lot of special summon from the graveyard. We have a lot of board presence. We have a lot of trap interaction. It's a fun deck. It's a very satisfying zombie theme, and I hope you guys enjoy all these cards. My name is Sarafi, and I was thrilled to have all of you with me.